Alright, today we're going to talk about multiplying and dividing fractions. Multiplying and dividing fractions is a little bit easier than adding and subtracting when you start because you don't have to find a common denominator. Our denominators here are 3 and 5. They are not the same, but that's okay when you're multiplying and dividing. Okay, to multiply fractions, we're going to multiply numerator times the numerator and denominator times the denominator, or top times top, bottom times bottom. We multiply straight across. 2 times 4 gives us 8. 3 times 5 gives us 15. So our final answer then is 8 over 15. The only time you would have to continue working is if you needed to simplify your fraction. This can't be simplified or broken down any further. There are no factors of 8 and 15 that are common for us to divide it out by. For example, 2 cannot go into both 8 and 15. 5 cannot go into both of those. So we have nothing to reduce. It's reduced and simplified and we're done with our work. Sometimes you have to multiply with a mixed number, and that we'll talk about in just a second. Alright, so when we're talking about division, you typically hear a strategy called KFC, or keep, flip, change. When you divide with fractions, you actually change it to a multiplication problem. Okay, so that's when keep, flip, change comes in. We're going to keep the first fraction, which is 7/10. Okay, we flip the second fraction, or find the reciprocal of it, and then we change the sign. So instead of division, we are going to have multiplication. Okay, so what this looks like is keep 7/10. We kept the first fraction, flip the second fraction. Instead of 1/2, we change it to 2 over 1. And then we change division to multiplication. Okay? Now we follow the same rules we did up here for multiplication. We multiply top times the top and bottom times the bottom. 7 times 2 gives us 14. 10 times 1 gives us 10. We're done with the calculation part, but we do need to simplify or reduce this fraction. We can reduce it, but also if we notice, the numerator here is larger than the denominator, which makes it an improper fraction. To change an improper fraction where the top is bigger than the bottom into a mixed number, we divide. Remember that this fraction bar means the same as division. So 14 over 10 is the same as 14 divided by 10. Okay, same thing. So 14 divided by 10, we know that 10 goes into 14 one time with a remainder of 4. So now when we rewrite 14 over 10, it becomes 1. You take whatever the remainder is, 4, and put it over your denominator, 10. Okay? So now we have 1 and 4/10. 4/10 can be reduced further to 1 and 2/5. We divide both by 2. Okay, so this 14 over 10 is the same as 1 and 4/10, is the same as 1 and 2/5. We've just reduced it and changed it into a number that we can work with instead of leaving it as an improper fraction, which you usually do not want to do. Improper fractions are what you want to see when you're multiplying, but otherwise you don't leave an answer as an improper fraction. Okay, so 14 divided by 10, 10 goes in one time with a remainder of 4 over 10, and then reduce. All right, now we're going to talk about what to do if you're multiplying with a mixed number. Okay, let me erase some work in here. Multiply with mixed numbers. Okay, so a mixed number is a whole number with a fraction attached to it. So let's say we have 2.5 times 1/3. Okay, we can't just multiply top times top and bottom times bottom because we aren't accounting for this whole number. All right, in order to make this a number that we can manipulate and deal with, we need to turn it into an improper fraction. Okay, so the way we do that is multiply and add, and I'll show you how. We take this whole number and we multiply it by this denominator. Then we add the numerator and put all of it over the same denominator of 2. Okay, so let's see how that would work. We have 2.5. we are keeping this denominator in our final result, so I'm going to keep the 2 here. To figure out what my numerator is, I multiply here. 2 times 2 gives me 4, and I add the numerator for 5 over 2. 5 over 2 is the exact same as 2.5, but now I can use it in my multiplication strategy. Okay? So now I just multiply as I did before, top times top, bottom times bottom. 5 times 1 gives me 5. 2 times 3 gives me 6. It's reduced as far as it can go, so 5, 6 is our final answer there. All right, we'll do one more problem with a mixed number. All right, let's say we had 3 2/3 times 1/5. Okay, same thing. We have to change this mixed number to an improper fraction. Remember, we're going to keep this denominator, so I'll go ahead and rewrite my fraction with a denominator of 3. Okay. Now, we multiply here, add here. 3 times 3 gives me 9. We are adding 2, which gives us 11 over 3. We multiplied 3 times 3 to give us 9, and then we added the numerator of 2. Now, a way we can double check our work to see if this fraction is the same as this one is remember that an improper fraction is still a fraction. This fraction bar means the same as divide. So let's think, mental math, 11 divided by 3 would give us 3 with a remainder of 2 all over the same denominator. So it is right. Okay? Now we just bring down the rest of our problem. Times 1/5. Okay, now we're going to multiply across. Top times the top and bottom times the bottom. 11 times 1 gives me 11. 3 times 5 gives me 15. 11 over 15 can't be reduced. 11 doesn't have any common factors. 15 doesn't have any factors common with 11. So there we go, 11 over 15. All right, please email or call me if you have any other questions about multiplying and dividing with fractions, whole numbers, improper fractions, or mixed numbers.